I left Sturgis, South Dakota, September 11th for Rapid City, South Dakota. I used Rapid City as my home base for exploring Custer State Park. I also used that as my home base for exploring Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse Memorial, shown in a previous video. I enjoyed seeing the buffalo, got some nice still photos from the car, and all of the crazy tourists. There were tourists standing right next to the buffalo scratching on the post, and I was waiting for him to charge them and run them down, but that didn't happen. And so at any rate, got some nice photos here of the buffalo. I left Rapid City, South Dakota on September 20th, headed for Wall, South Dakota. I really enjoyed this big sky view with blue sky and thunderstorms in the distance. When I got to Wall, I was greeted by some large grain bins next to the campground where I was staying. I think that was the most interesting part about Wall, South Dakota, was the grain bins at the end of Main Street. Everybody talks about Wall Drug in Wall, South Dakota as being a go-to place. I did not enjoy it. It was just shopping, shopping, shopping. Alright, made it to the Badlands this morning and wanted to do a quick video just to show that I'm here. I saw a place that I wanted to pull off and take some photos. I saw a buffalo way down the road and I thought, he's too far away, I don't need to worry about him. Well, I got out and I walked out on this point and was taking photos, and when I turned around to walk back to the car, the buffalo was walking right up by the car, and he came around on the driver's side and started scratching himself on a post. I had left the car door open, I had left the keys in the car, and I had left the car running. So I was going, oh, what am I going to do? So I walked way out around as far as I could to come up onto the passenger side of the car. And the door was locked on the passenger side. I couldn't get in the passenger side. So I kind of waited and watched the buffalo, and when he had his head turned the other way a little bit, I ran around and jumped in the driver's seat and shut the door, threw it in gear, and backed out and got the heck away before he decided to ram the side of the car or do something. I left Wall, South Dakota on September 23rd for Mitchell, South Dakota. Crossed the Missouri River on the way, where they had a rest stop with a memorial to Lewis and Clark. I stopped at the Moose Lodge, where they have RV parking for members. The Corn Palace was nice to look at. They put a lot of effort into the decorations, but It's nothing special. It's just the town's auditorium, like their civic center, where they have meetings and things like that. I left Mitchell, South Dakota on September 25th for Sioux Falls. I wanted to go see the Sioux Falls in downtown, but in my research there wasn't really any RV parking, so I stopped at a Flying J and parked the RV and took my car downtown and did some photos and video of the falls. I left Sioux Falls and continued on south to Nebraska City, Nebraska, where I was to spend the night in a Walmart. All along the way, the Missouri River showed signs of flooding, and part of I-29 was flooded in Omaha. I had to go on a detour around Omaha, Nebraska, and continue on south to Nebraska City. There were businesses and farms flooded all along the way. The flooding occurred September 16th, and this was shot 9 days later on September 25th. I don't stop in many Walmarts, but this was the exception. It was up on the hill surrounded by trees and grassy areas in Nebraska City, Nebraska. One of the prettiest, quietest Walmarts I've stayed in. On September 27th, I continued my trek on to Kansas City to visit a friend and eat some Kansas City barbecue. It's pretty good. Leaving Kansas City, I went on to Branson, Missouri for a few days and left there for Sikeston, Missouri. I saw these two guys swinging on the bottom of a helicopter along the way. Leaving Missouri, I crossed the Mississippi River into Illinois on a very narrow bridge. Needless to say, I was somewhat terrified, even being an experienced driver, driving a 8.5, 9-foot wide motorhome where my mirrors were just clearing the side of the bridge by inches and waiting for a tractor-trailer truck or something to come at me and just getting by. I did not know how it was going to be. I did not know how I was going to do it. And sure enough, I did meet a truck, and I slowed down and just eked by. Scared the heck out of me. The worst part was meeting other people in RVs. They were just as afraid as I was crossing the bridge, and they didn't want to get close to the edge of the bridge. So I thought some people in RVs were going to hit me. But long, narrow, old-timey bridge across the Mississippi River into Illinois. You can see I slowed down there. Thank goodness I made it. So the next bridge that I came to was crossing from Illinois into Kentucky, crossing the Ohio River. I had to wait for a few minutes for a house to come by. And so then, same thing, lots of trucks and lots of traffic here because they were all backed up behind the house, waiting for the house to get across the bridge. So I was driving very slow, looking at my mirrors on the right and watching the trucks go by on the left, just making absolutely sure that I had enough room to get by. So this is the Ohio River into Kentucky, and I was on my way to Nashville, Tennessee. Coming into Nashville, I had a homeless guy cross the road in front of me. His friend started to step out, but had second thoughts and stepped back just in time. I arrived in Nashville, Tennessee on October the 8th. Spent 6 nights there. Got to spend a couple nights downtown enjoying a street party and visiting some of the bars and hanging out with my nephew. I left Nashville Shores RV Campground near Nashville on October the 14th for Chattanooga, Tennessee in the Incline Railway. I rode the Incline Railway up to the top of the mountain, and this is the view from one point at the top. They have a Civil War museum up here and a spectacular overlook from that point where you see the river and everything. So I will take a picture without me in it for you to enjoy. Here's a few shots from the Chattanooga Choo Choo Hotel in downtown Chattanooga. Leaving Nashville, I met 8 buses under heavy police escort. Politicians making the rounds, I suppose. Had a truck pass me, and he wandered into my lane as he got past me. A little while later, I had another truck that was in my lane. So, everybody has to pay attention. This is in Asheville, North Carolina. I got to get out on the Blue Ridge Parkway and see a little bit of the changing colors. I moved on down to Pilot Mountain in North Carolina to visit my sister and got some pictures of the RV and a campground. And that wraps it up. Thanks for watching.